Welcome to 2024. This is your year to shine. If you have ever second guessed your commitment to learning the guitar, this podcast is for you. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I am Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. Today, I am so happy to be here with you today. I'm back from a week and a half rest. So happy to be starting off the new year with you. I'm also starting my 14-day Guitar Boost Camp 2024. Each day for the next 14 days, I'm going to be helping players get their year started by first knocking down the stuff in their way, the obstacles. And then second, we're going to be setting up the fast track to success on the guitar. This is open for all members of the Academy. And if you've been thinking of giving the Academy a try, now is the best time to try with my $1 for 14 days Academy preview. You can just sign up, get the $1 trial, and then you can join the Boost Camp for just $1. And then afterwards decide if continuing on as a member is right for you. As I go through this, I'd like to talk a little bit about my take on some of the problems that people have learning guitar. The way I teach is pretty different from what you typically find out on the internet. And that's because everything I do comes straight from the actual problems that I found with my personal students over years and years and years. And these topics may not be the most popular one. They may not be the ones that get the tons of clicks. But I don't have time for that. I've only got time to be fixing problems. And I don't want to be giving more problems to players who are already confused and already overwhelmed. The Boost Camp that I'm doing right now is going to cover the 6 top obstacles that I found from frustrated students. And then after we do those, each one will have some exercises for that day that will also build your musicianship up quickly. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And today on this podcast, I'm going to give a little sneak peek. I'm going to share a little bit about one of those 6 roadblocks that I see over and over again. We're going to talk about permission. It's a permission problem. Do you need permission to play the guitar? You're probably thinking that's silly. I don't need anyone's permission to play the guitar. I decided I wanted to do it and I'm doing it now. And that's how most people think. But I see something that most people don't. I see over and over again players who are waiting for permission to move forward. Think about that. Have you ever felt that way? First time you hear that, your mind goes straight to, well, maybe they're just worrying about what other people are thinking or what other musicians feel, that whether you're good enough to play or to perform. That's a big part of a lot of people's problems. But today I'm going to share something that's just as common, but it's something you may be doing and not even realize that you're doing it. Self-permission. Are you holding yourself back in any way that you can think of? Are you second-guessing yourself as you practice? Are you consistently seeing red lights when the best thing for your progress needs to be green lights? This is a little taste of this year's boot camp, and I hope it helps you move forward farther than you've ever gone before. And we're going to do that this year. So let's get started. Someone who struggles with self-permission has difficulty giving themselves the freedom to do certain things, to do certain activities, to pursue goals, to express themselves. There's an internal stuff going on. There's barriers going up. You have doubts about what you can do. You have inhibitions that are stopping you from really experiencing the fullness of what you can do with the guitar, your interests, your desires, and your needs. You might hesitate to get started practicing the guitar, or you might set the bar too high for you to participate. You might limit yourself from trying new things. You might set limits of how far that you can go because of the way you think about yourself, your beliefs. You might put too much emphasis on other people, external validation, or you could just plain freeze when you compare yourself to other players. The red flags of someone who struggles with self-permission. And here's what you're going to do with this. You're going to listen to these things that I'm about to tell you. And when you hear something that you recognize in yourself, make a note and put a big priority on it. This is something that's holding you back. So I'm going to start with the big one, perfectionism. Constantly seeking perfection and being overtly critical of your own work or progress. This happens across the board. This isn't just for advanced guitar players who want to be perfect. I've seen beginners day one show an element of perfectionism and how upsetting it is when they can't get something right away. It's a big problem. These players might hesitate to start, or they might hesitate to continue. They may, because they fear they're not going to be perfect. There's that word fear again. They set unrealistic standards for themselves. You're setting standards that are excessively high, things that are unattainable. If you've got your eyes so far up in the clouds, there's a lot of good stuff right in front of you that you can't see. You'll have difficulty recognizing and appreciating how far you've come because you're trying to paint yourself into an ideal, something that you're sitting up very high. We think, well, if I'm struggling, I'll never get there, so we'll just forget it. And a lot of that leads to all or nothing thinking. Now, this is something that also happens across the board. I can think of a lot of students right now, which I'm not going to say their names, who suffer from this. All or nothing. They see all of the outcomes in practicing in extreme terms. It's either got to be perfect or it's a complete failure. Have you ever felt like that before? You'll never be either one of those things. You'll never be perfect and you'll never be a complete failure. I know that. I've seen it over and over again. When you're struggling with the concept that mistakes and imperfections are a natural part of the learning process, it has a big impact on how you move forward. It's also got an impact on creativity. You can stifle creativity and being spontaneous in your playing. You'll have difficulty experimenting with different styles or new things, techniques, because you're afraid that you'll never master them perfectly. So you may not even want to try. If this is you, if any of this sounds familiar to you, I would like for you to do something with me right now. I would like for you to give yourself permission to not be perfect. Write that down. I give myself permission to not be perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next big one. The next big one is fear of failure. That's a big one. Have you ever felt that way? I'm not sure I need to be doing this because I don't think that I'm going to be able to succeed if I try this out. It looks too hard for me, and I know I'll just mess it up. If you've ever felt like that, listen up. Strong fear of making mistakes or failing may prevent players from trying new things or taking risks. Trying new things and taking risks is how we grow. You might avoid challenges to protect yourself from failure. You'll be risk averse, avoiding challenging pieces or techniques. That way you prevent potential failure. You could hesitate to explore new music or new expressions over fear. A lot of times this happens because of an overemphasis on how it's going to turn out, overemphasis on outcome. If you put excessive focus on the final result rather than enjoying the process of getting there, you're already done before you really got started. Someone with this kind of fear has a difficulty for appreciating mistakes, the value of mistakes. These are opportunities for growth. Fear of judgment of others too is another thing that can hinder the willingness to perform or to share music with other people. If you're always concerned about being criticized or not meeting others' expectations, it can leave you frozen. And if this is you, if any of this sounds familiar, here's what I'd like for you to do now. Give yourself permission to fail. That's pretty easy to do, right? Give yourself permission to fail. I give myself permission to fail. Why would we want to do that? It is the fastest way to grow. Only though, if you stick with it. If you fail and just quit, you're never going to grow at that point. But if you allow yourself to grow, look at it as a learning experience. This is the only way you're going to grow. How about this next one? Self-doubt. I'm sure that we've all felt this at one time or another, but some people feel this. It can be overwhelming, the amount of self-doubt that they have, especially when it comes to guitar. Expressing frequent self-doubt about your abilities and constantly questioning whether you're good enough, and not just guitar, but many different types of things in your life, is a big red flag. Imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like a fraud? Even though you know that you can cut it, you have the skill and you have the competence, but you just feel like I got lucky doing this stuff. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not really good at this. You downplay any kind of achievements that you have, all because you think it's luck rather than you working hard to get somewhere. Another thing with that is comparing yourself to your past, to your younger self, constantly comparing current abilities to the way you used to perform. That can lead to self-doubt too, especially in older guitar players. So there's a lot of guitar players who started when they were in their teens and they played in bands and they put the guitar away. Tons have put the guitar away for years, decades. And then when the kids got older, then they started bringing the guitars out again and they're feeling like, gosh, I was much better when I started before. Now I'm struggling to do that. The next one I want to talk about is avoiding decision making. Have you ever found yourself doing that? Taking a long time to make easy decisions can be something that is very common with a lot of people. And why is that? Because your brain's not stupid. It can see ahead. It can see what those decisions might lead to. And this goes into all areas of life, personal, professional, and musical as well too. There's something called analysis paralysis. You're overthinking. You're doing prolonged decision making, and you kind of are stopped in your tracks, and you figure, well, I'll make that decision later. Maybe it'll come to me at a different time. Your brain could be psyching you out, and it could say, you know what? If I do make this decision, here's number 1, number 2, number 3. All of these things are going to happen, and I don't really know if I'm comfortable with those things. Some people are perfectionist decision making. They set unrealistically high standards for their decisions, which makes you indecisive. You get the fear of making the wrong choice before you make that commitment to in music. It could be just a direction that you want to go, or what's the next thing that you can learn. Also, you can be procrastinating as a coping mechanism, a way to avoid making decisions. So it may not even be just taking that long time to make decisions. You don't even get there. You just find other things to do because there's a decision that's coming up ahead. If this is you, I would like for yourself to write this down. I give myself permission to make decisions, good or bad, and stick with them. Why? Because they are yours, and your decisions will mature over time if you continue to make them. The next thing that I see all the time is self-talk. The way that you think of it is the inner way that you think about yourself, and it spills over into your actual speaking as well too. Negative self-talk is very destructive. If you really have a negative opinion on yourself, it can hold you back. All it is a decision. You can decide, you know what, for this week, I'm not going to be so hard on myself. I'm going to see how far I can go this week. And you might even direct it into you might say, okay, I'm going to work on rhythms this week. I'm struggling with these rhythms. I'm not going to put myself down. I'm not going to say, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Have you ever had negative thoughts inside, and then in your conversations, they just popped out and you surprised yourself? Wow, I can't believe that. Is that what I really feel? Am I really that hard on myself? It's very, very tough things to do. If you have that, if you know that you have negative self-talk, I'd like for you to do one thing for me. You know what it is? Give yourself permission to speak positively about your playing, at least for a small amount of time, and see what a dramatic difference it's going to do in your guitar playing life. A few more of these red flags. Comparing yourself to other people. This is, you have to do a little bit of that to kind of gauge where you are, but don't let it get you down. If you frequently compare yourself to others and it makes you feel inadequate or inferior as a result, this takes a big toll on your self-confidence. Individualized goals, setting these things for you, not for someone else, so you can measure your progress rather than comparing others, is the key to this thing. You're unique. You are not the same as anyone else. There are things that you do that these people that you think are so much better than you, they could never do. But the problem is the things that you want to do are what they're already doing well. You have a unique path to getting there. And once you appreciate the uniqueness of your own musical journey, you're going to start to move forward and you'll see it. Understand that each guitar player has their own strengths and their own areas for improvement. A big problem that a lot of people have is they feel that this is a competition, that they're competing with the people that they're hearing. One way that you can really help get rid of this red flag is flipping it, like changing the perspective when you deal with other people, when they have achievements, when they're doing something good. Learn from them. Celebrate other people's successes. That should be a motivation for you. And it also gives you a path to move forward to. That's how you do it. That's the direction they went. You can go that way as well. And if any of this sounds familiar to you, I would love for you to give yourself permission to ignore other players and focus on yourself. And the last red flag for people who are not giving themselves permission to move forward is lack of initiative. Not pursuing your goals, not pursuing your interests or your passions, waiting for someone else to say, hey, this might be a good thing for you to do. Well, that may never come. You know what you like. You know what works well for you. You know the things that will light a fire inside you to move forward. Why is it that you're not moving forward with these things? It could be other people's ideas of what you should do. And if inside you think it's different, what I want to do is different than what everyone else wants me to do, that is something you need to listen to. You don't need someone else's approval to move forward. You can move forward. Even if it's something that you have no idea how you're going to move forward, you can move forward in small steps along the way. And instead of doing something that someone else wants you to do, you'll be exploring the joy and the satisfaction of learning and playing something that is important to you. If this is you, if this sounds familiar to you, I would like for you to give yourself permission to experience joy while playing guitar and explore how far you can take that. So that's the red flags I'm going to bring up today. I left a lot of them out. This can get really deep. I just wanted to stay with the most common ones, because if you see that you're struggling to move forward and you have no idea why, you may be holding yourself back. And if any of these things sounded familiar, I would really love you to confront them head on. There's no time to waste anymore. We need to move forward with these things now. And if you're the one that's holding you back, we can do something about that. That's the positive part about this. Remember, I have Guitar Boost Camp 2024. It's starting today. And just for $1, you can come in and join us each day for the next 14 days. And even if you come in late, it's fine. They'll all be recorded and you can go back and watch through from the beginning again. And just for $1 to be an Academy member. And at the end, you can decide whether or not you would want to stay a member. I would love for you to be there because we have new things every month that are coming, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That link is in the description below, and I'm going to call it That's a Wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show, and if you've benefited from this podcast, please leave a favorable Apple Podcast review. It is the best way to make sure we get this very valuable content to more guitar players around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, join us for the Boost Camp 2004 over at Play Guitar Academy. And I will be so happy to see you there. And we are going to move forward in 2024. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.